Trailer for sale or rent. Rooms to let 50 cents. No phone, no pool, no pets. Ain't got no cigarettes. But 2 hours of pushing broom buys a 8 by 12 4-bedroom. I'm a man of means by no means. King of the road. Third boxcar, midnight.
Hello, and welcome to episode 4.12, the April 16th, 2025 Homeward Bound edition of Notes from the Aisle Seat, the podcast that covers the arts in northern Chautauqua County, sponsored by the 1891 Fredonia Opera House. My name is Tom Laughlin, and I'm your host as we bring you news and information about arts events at the Opera House and around the region, including interviews with artists and creators across the county. By the time you hear this podcast, I will have hopefully made it back home and will be in decompression mode as I recover and unpack from my travels. 3 months is longer than you think, and I will have driven probably over 6,000 miles since January. And while I had fun, the traveling nonetheless took its toll. Would I do it again? If you ask me in a couple of weeks, I might say no. But if you ask me when the first major snowstorm hits in December, I'll probably be on the road before you'd get an answer. For now, it's great to be back and enjoy all that Chautauqua County has to offer in the spring, summer, and fall. This is an unusual episode because all 3 events covered happen to be theater events. So let's go backstage with the 3 shows.
Laurie told you?
Yes. Amy, I'm so happy for you. This was meant to be.
Oh, I'm so relieved. Thank you. I wanted to write, Joe. I wanted to write, and I wanted to explain everything, but everything was happening so fast, and really, I was worried you'd be angry at me.
No.
No, you're not angry at me.
Life is too short to be angry at one's sisters.
Mm-hmm. I really miss her.
I know.
One could credibly argue that the 3 most important American novels of the 19th century were Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain, and Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. All 3 of these novels celebrate freedom in one way or another. The 4 March sisters in Little Women have come to represent various degrees of female empowerment not seen in literature before. Main Street Studios will be presenting a staged version of Little Women, and I spoke with first-time director Anna Gagliano about this production. Probably one of the most enduring stories and novels of all of American literature is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. It seems to have survived almost over 150, close to 200 years now as we move along, and it has inspired any number of adaptations and certainly has been adapted for the stage. And it's going to be presented down at the Main Street Studios during the first week in May. Its director is a young woman by the name of Anna Gagliano. She is originally from Rochester. She graduated from SUNY Fredonia with a BA in journalism in 2021. She's currently working in marketing in Buffalo and doing the commute to come down here to direct this for Main Street Studios. So, Anna, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Tom. I'm super excited to be on.
Great. So let's talk just a little bit quickly about Little Women and this particular production. It's been adapted by so many people that I don't really know which adaptation you guys are doing right now. So why don't you talk about that first?
Yeah. So the version that we're putting on at Main Street right now was adapted by a younger playwright named Kate Hamill. It's fairly recent too. I believe it's from like the mid 2000s. I'm sorry, the mid 2010s. I know that its premiere was in 2018, so it's very recent, very contemporary. And the thing with Kate Hamill is she loves to put a feminist spin and apply the feminist lens to a lot of her work and a lot of her adaptations. And that rings true with this one in particular. So it's been really fun to go through so far, as it is such a known, beloved story, just to see the things that are a little bit different.
So what about this adaptation drew you to it? Was it its particular slant, the fact that it's recent, or anything along those lines?
Well, to be completely honest, I didn't pick this one out myself. It was chosen by our director of the community theater program, Phil McMullen, who I trust with my whole heart. But after we received it and we're reading through it, it's the exact right one for us. It's a great length, first of all. It really centers Joe at the heart of everything, which is typical for most Little Women adaptations, but she really gets a special spotlight to shine in. And also Beth, the sister who is most forgotten about, in my opinion, just gets a really lovely role in this. That's a lot more true to how she's portrayed in the original book, in my opinion.
Okay. Um, the cast is can be, I think, fairly large because there's any number of roles in it. There are, of course, the four March sisters. There's Marmee. There's the great aunt. There's the two gentlemen who end up marrying two of the sisters. It's a fairly expansive novel, that crossing a lot of time and even a lot of geography. How
Mhm.
do you think what do you think the play does to compact that in, and how are you approaching that as a director?
So, this particular adaptation focuses a lot more on the relationship between the sisters and their friends and the community that they're surrounded with, as opposed to their own individual stories. So, that really helps cut out a lot of, the aspects that make the book and some of the other adaptations, and especially the movies, even longer. Um, it was a struggle to work with at first. There were certain, events that I was looking for in the script that weren't present anymore. But once I realized it was just more about the relations of everyone as opposed to giving their entire life story, it allowed me more to focus on that aspect, on the love between all of the characters in the show.
When you look at the script itself, do you feel that the script is sort of presenting Little Women with a more sort of modern slant in terms of how you want to present it to a 21st century audience, as opposed to how it comes out in terms of a 19th century novel?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because the script itself has been shortened so much, it takes out a lot of these times and places where you might need to already have the context of the original story or just like knowledge of the world at that time to understand things. But the basic setting of it, these four sisters coming of age, to the backdrop of a tumultuous time in their country, is something that plays perfectly into what's going on right now in modern life.
So tell me a little bit about the four sisters and the actors that you have portraying them. How do you see each particular actor and the character that they're playing? Why you cast them perhaps in that role, or why they were cast in that role, and what do you think they're bringing to that character?
Yeah, definitely. I'll go in order of their ages. So our Meg is Emma Newton. She is a Main Street veteran, through and through. She, in my personal opinion, has never really gotten an opportunity to play a role, like Meg before. The eldest sister, full of poise, which is something that Emma herself is. She's a very organized, kind, loving person. And I just felt like it was time for her to slide into this perfect role and really just exude that femininity and that warmness that Meg carries throughout the entire show, even when she's younger to when she's older. It's just something that I really knew that Emma could fit into, and it's been lovely to see. Moving on to Joe, that is Cal Wielgus, another Main Street veteran. They are absolutely phenomenal, just an incredible actor. Um, Something about Cal themselves is they defy gender norms. They live their life the way that they want, and that is so Joe. Just blazing their own trail, making their own path. And I really couldn't see anyone else sliding into that better. Um, our Beth is an actor that I hadn't worked with before or hadn't met before this production. But I know that she's been involved with some of Main Street's playground stuff. That's Claire Blandino. She lives up in Eden, so she's making a trip down too every day to participate. Um, and because, as I said before, Beth is given just a complete different treatment that she's usually given in modern adaptations of this story. She is treated more as the conscience of the family, as she's often described in the book. Speaks up a little bit more and is given more of that spotlight and is shown as like the driving force for why Jo ends up writing the story that she does. And Claire just really holds that kind of sense of quiet, just quiet knowing of things. Being that observer that kind of has a hand in how everything's playing out. Maybe you don't realize it at first, but by the end you'll know it. And for our Amy's, so this adaptation, Kate Hamill does a really lovely job of writing Amy when she's younger in the first act as just this petulant child, and then in act two as this uppity grown woman, wants to kind of emulate her Aunt March, and just be a different woman than what she grew up seeing in her home, which was pretty casual back then. So to portray that properly, I did cast two different actors for Amy. So our younger one, her name is Evelyn. She is a local student, 12 years old, super hard worker. She was one of our Dorothys in Wizard of Oz, and she is just really leaning in and having so much fun with playing such a bratty little girl. She's doing excellent, and it's been really fun to work with her too. She's such a hardworking kid. And then our older Amy is Claire O'Connell. She is a student at Forestville, and she definitely, I think it's a fun opportunity for her to play such a, as Amy's kind of described, horrid as she's older, just and kind of mean and callous, but it all comes from a place of just wanting to be more and make more of herself, since she doesn't have that many opportunities. And Claire has really done a fantastic job with that as well. We've really only started rehearsals for Act Two recently, so I know as we go through more of those, she's really gonna come out and bring life to the really complicated character that is adult Amy March.
And what about your Marmee? You need someone to stabilize all of these little women. Who have you got for that role?
For that, we have Rachel Offenbach Smith. She's done some shows with us, the community theater program at Main Street as well. And she is a mom in real life, so she really brings all of that knowledge and warmth to the role. Something very interesting, though, is she's a mom of two boys, so this is a fun opportunity for her to practice her girl momming. But Rachel in particular, her own mother and her mother's family has a really deep personal connection to this story. So she was kind of a no-brainer. For our Marmee, she has all of this knowledge of the story, and it just means something really special to her. And she brings that with Marmee, and she makes different choices than you might expect Marmee to make, but it just comes through so beautifully. She is fantastic at being a mother.
Wow. That's really nice. You listen, you're a first time director, and I'm very interested in not just how you came to decide to direct this particular show, but what is it about directing you're finding as you're working your way through this that you find fascinating, interesting, challenging, any of those things?
Yeah. So I was so excited. It was around this time last year, I got a call from our director of the community theater program and our producer, the head honcho of Main Street, Ted Sharon. So Ted Sharon and then Phil McMullen, they gave me a call and they were told me that they were deciding the shows for the next season and thought of me when it came to Little Women for directing. And yeah, I had never done it before, but just knowing that I had those two behind me and, that I already had so many great connections and relationships with so many folks at Main Street, I decided to take it on, just because I also love this story as well. And me, I grew up doing community theater and, the shows at my high school. When I attended Fredonia, I was in the show choir that was on campus and then found my way to Main Street Studios over the next couple years. So I have a lot of experience being on stage. So trying to convert that experience into directing knowledge has been tricky for me. I've definitely not passed it yet.
Mhm.
Um, there's a lot of times where I can picture how I might do something or how I like would want it to look or how, I might watch another actor if I was on stage with someone, how something they could do could help me. And it's hard to articulate it sometimes. It's hard to articulate those actual directions. So thankfully, my partner, Fabricio Logan, who is also in the show, he is playing our John Brooks. He's also acting as my stage manager. And he has a bit more experience with directing and things like that. So he's kind of helped me get my thoughts out sometimes when I'm trying to describe something, but the words just aren't getting there. But honestly, my cast is so incredible. I've been telling them almost every night. They make my job so incredibly easy. They're all so talented. They have really great instincts and they all relate to their characters so well that oftentimes I'm just, giving blocking ideas or, different ways to approach a couple lines, but they've been so solid. Everything that they do, it's just bringing what's already in my head to life.
Wow. When you see, again, I'm so curious because you're so enthusiastic about this, but what do you think is going to go through your mind or even your heart when that opening curtain takes off and the lights come up for that first production and you're sitting there watching it? What do you think is going to be going through your being?
Well, me, I know personally, I'm just gonna be so proud and excited and honestly relieved that it's happening. Because we're less than a month out now.
Yes.
Just because there's so many things that still need to be done, but just when it's going to be opening night, I know that everything's going to be in place. It'll all work out, and I'm excited for that feeling. Something that I'm a little nervous about, but not too much because I have such an incredible cast, is there are some things in this story, or in this adaptation, I should say, that are different. Just like for an example, not that I want to give any spoilers, but a really big note from the original story that everyone knows and loves is when Amy burns Joe's manuscript. So that is handled a little bit differently in this adaptation. When I first read it, I was like, oh no, like, are people going to enjoy this? Because they're going to say, hey, that doesn't happen then. That happens here. And there's some different things. Um, but all of like these little changes that I'm feeling kind of nervous about that, maybe some big fans might not be as receptive to at first, they all meld together in this adaptation to create a similar but different story. And I know that it will be appreciated. I'm not going to say I hope. I know that it will. Um, but yeah, I will also be wondering how people will receive some of these changes.
Hmm. Yeah, that's always a big risk when you're a director and you have a particular show. It's like, how will the audience receive whatever it is you're trying to put in front of them?
Mhm.
Thank you very much for the time you've given me. You're a very articulate young lady. And to be honest, I did not expect someone who didn't really study theater to be as articulate as you are about the art form. That's terrific to see. It makes my heart feel good, because sometimes theater majors can be a pain in the butt, and you
No,
know.
I agree. That was my dream, but I was a little too shy to go on auditions, so I chose journalism instead.
Anna, you may have made the better choice. Take my word for it. Listen, good luck to you. Good luck to your show, and we'll be looking forward to having the audience come and see this production. I'm sure it's going to be spectacular. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Tom. It was wonderful talking to you.
Little Women, a stage adaptation written by Kate Hamill, will be performed at Main Street Studios Thursday through Saturday, May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd at 7:30 p.m., with a matinee performance on May 3rd at 2 p.m. You can purchase tickets using the link at the bottom of the show notes, or follow the links at mainstreetstudios.org to be taken to their ticket website.
Look, somebody gave her the baby.
Yes, that was some 10 months ago. I fail to see how the identity of that somebody has anything to do with this trial.
Why do you think that?
Don't ask me those questions, dear. I'm not the patient.
Well, I'm the doctor. I'm the one that's going to decide what is or is not important here.
Look, Doctor, I don't know how to tell you this politely, but I don't approve of you. Not you personally.
The science of psychiatry.
Exactly. I want you to deal with Agnes as speedily and as easily as possible. She won't hold up under any sort of cross-examination.
I am not with the Inquisition.
And I'm not from the Middle Ages.
I know what you are. I don't want that mind cut open.
In the annals of American entertainment and drama, Catholic nuns seem to hold a peculiar fascination. From Julie Andrews in The Sound of Music to Phyllis Diller and Sally Struthers in Nun Sense, from Audrey Hepburn in The Nun's Story to Elizabeth Franz in Sister Mary Ignatius Explains It All For You, nuns have appeared on the American stage and screen in many different forms and shapes. Playwright John Peelmeyer added to the list with Agnes of God in 1979. Director Tim Newell is preparing a production of this play for the Lakeshore Center for the Arts, and we discussed some of the themes that the play brings to light concerning faith and reality. Be advised that this interview discusses topics that some might consider sensitive or explicit. This is going to be a really delightful interview for me because right now I have with me one of my oldest and dearest friends from the Buffalo theater scene. His name is Tim Newell, and he and I have been in any number of shows together, Shakespeare in Delaware Park, and I was pretty fortunate to be able to play Oscar Madison against his delightful Felix Unger in a production of The Odd Couple at the Jewish Repertory Theater back in 2014. 2014, Tim, my God, wow.
I know. TikTok, right?
TikTok, yeah. So welcome to the podcast. He is the
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
He is the director of Agnes of God, which will be appearing at the Lakeshore Center for the Arts in Westfield the first weekend in May. And I wanted to get a little bit of insight on, why he chose this play and what's happening over at LSFTA and all of that kinds of things. So, Tim, let's start off with the obvious question. You're the director, and this is your production, Agnes of God. You chose the title. Tell us a little bit about the show and why you thought this would be a particularly good production for LSFTA to put on.
Okay. Well, the title again is Agnes of God, and it's written by the brilliant John Peelmeyer, who also wrote the screenplay for the film adaptation that they did back in 1985. For the life of me, I can't remember how I came across the play back in the 1890s, in the 1980s. It somehow fell in my hands, and I read it, and I was grabbed instantly because the writing is impeccable, and the script is like it's Shakespearean in a way. There's talk of a character, and suddenly the character appears. It's a wonderful roadmap, and it's also a tour de force for three very, very, very strong actresses. Of which I have, and I'm so delighted. Emily Berry is playing Agnes, so she has a very challenging role ahead of her, and she's grabbing it beautifully. And she takes direction like a champ, and she holds on to it, and she makes it her own. And Tina Rausa plays Dr. Martha Livingston, who is the court psychiatrist, and Karen Seeger Cockrum is Mother Superior. So again, I just don't remember how it came into my hands, but I certainly fell in love with it. I fell in love with it so much that I decided to direct a scene from it in my directing class back at Jamestown Community College. And this is back in the 84, 85, 86, that timeline there. So I directed a scene from it, and everyone seemed to like it. And then, and I don't remember the year, and unfortunately, it's not on the poster that I created for the productions. Here in Westfield, it was the company was then called the Westfield Theater Players, and for the love of me, I don't remember who the artistic director was at the time, but I proposed the idea to direct it for Westfield Theater Players, and I did, and it was presented at the Westfield Academy and Central School, where I went to high school, and we did it on a relatively bare stage. I brought the legs of curtains in just a little bit to make them a little bit more enclosed. We had very little lighting to work with, but the story, it's the story. It's not a play about a set, and it's not a play about lighting or sound or anything like that. It is a very deep subject matter, and on that, it's about a young nun, Agnes, who is indicted for manslaughter. the murder of a infant child. And Dr. Martha Livingston is assigned by the court to go and interview and investigate into this incident. So there we have state, and then we have Mother Superior, who is part of church, and she doesn't agree with them, and the Catholic and the psychiatry doesn't necessarily believe in their practice, their belief, their dogma, I guess you could say. So she goes and she meets Agnes, and they have a talk, and Agnes is very closed off. She's young, she's innocent. She hasn't been out in the world, so there's a lot of things she just doesn't know and understand. Yet she's very, very smart and cunning and charming and lovely. The audience is definitely going to fall in love with her. So there's a series of interviews in the psychiatrist's office between Agnes and the doctor, and then the mother comes in and gives her side of the story and how she's trying desperately to have Martha Livingston replaced with another psychiatrist, because she just doesn't get along with this Martha Livingston. They do not see eye to eye, and it's stated in the play that Mother Superior reminds Martha Livingston so much of her own mother. So there we have that conflict. And so going back to the origin, again, I just don't remember how it came to pass, but I read it and I fell in love with it. The monologues are fantastic. Again, a tour de force for three lovely actresses. And they're doing a remarkable job. I'm very pleased.
The play itself was based apparently on a true incident which happened outside of Rochester, in the Rochester suburb of Brighton. Did you do any research on that to check it out and see?
I did. Yeah. I looked it up, Googled it, and sure enough, there is the incident. The play takes liberties with the event. Surprise ending, I guess we'll say. But yeah, it's definitely based on a true story set that occurred in Rochester, and it was a big brouhaha too. I mean, there was a lot of very upset people about the whole thing. It was tragic. Yeah.
Yes, it was a very tragic story, I think, and it's one of those stories that I think is very, very challenging for audiences to kind of absorb, because it's that eternal fight, it seems, in the human species between the things that they have faith in, the things that they believe in, versus the things that are actually happening in reality, and Agnes of God really brings that kind of thing across, because it's a perfect triangle, because you have Agnes up at the top of the triangle, and then you have the Mother Superior and Dr. Martha Livingston fighting on opposite ends to try and get to what actually happens, and the struggle is very, very dynamic.
It is. Mother Superior wants nothing to do with this. She would just rather it be left alone, and keep rather than put Agnes in a institution, a prison, or an asylum of some sort. She wishes that Agnes could just live at the convent and serve her term there.
Yeah. Do you think that the material itself is going to be controversial today in any way, in terms of the way that it was in the mid 80s when it was first written?
There are some sensitive issues, especially child abuse. That's brought up, molestation, sexual abuse, and the protection of a woman's body, possible rape. There's talk of that heavily. So yeah, there are a lot of little kernels in there to spark an awful lot of interest, I believe.
Yeah, I also think that correct me if I'm wrong. And if I am wrong, I'll definitely edit it out. But I also think that one of that struggles, I recall when I first saw the play, that they even had talked about, the possibilities of miracles in the realm of like virgin birth and stuff like that. I think even that was part of the subject matter for the play.
It does. It comes up. But yeah, the mystery lies in who was the father of the child. How could he possibly gotten into the convent? she certainly couldn't get out. She's committed to living there, you
Right.
know.
Right.
So there is this belief in a possible immaculate conception,
Uh-huh.
much as the story of Jesus Christ goes.
Yeah.
Completely.
Um, how are the cast taking to your direction, and what are you finding to be maybe perhaps the most challenging part of directing these three women in this show?
It hasn't been a challenge. For some reason, it's been really, really easy. And I think it's because of the three beautiful women I'm working with. They're very smart, intuitive, instinctive. So I'm delighted. They're making my job very, very easy.
Going a little bit beyond the just this particular production itself, but talking about the Lakeshore Center for the Arts a bit. One of the things that, it's a organization right now that seems to be in search of something steady to be able to, put it on the map or something. And I know one of the things that's helping it is the Juicebox Organic One Act Festival, which is again coming up,
Yes.
going to have its third year. You're producing this play. Do you get any hint that, something like this, like a regular series of play productions at the Lakeshore Center for the Arts would like to become a regular thing, or do you look to think that maybe there's ways in which the organization can expand to be able to be a larger presence in the Westfield community?
I believe that's what's happening. The play festival certainly generated a lot of interest and fun, but I can't recall when the actual last fully staged production was. I believe it was called Becky's New Car.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and Tina directed that. So that was a main stage production. Other than that, like you said, it's just the one act. So I believe that my introduction to Agnes for them is launching exactly that, to keep some momentum. So we'll have Agnes of God, and then we'll have the one act plays, and then Rick Mascaro, who's the executive director of the center, is going to be directing. The title escapes me, but he's directing that in September. So we've got something in the spring, something in the summer, and something immediately in the fall, and then whatever special presentations they do thereafter, weather permitting, because by then we're getting into the fall and the winter months, right?
Right.
And I feel sorry for them in a way that, like so many other arts organizations and just, well, everything in general, was crippled by COVID. So they had just opened, they were just starting to produce things, and then suddenly COVID comes along and they had to shut down, and then try to regenerate business and interest. And I think they're doing a remarkable job. If people want to come to Westfield, New York and visit the center, they're going to see beautiful artwork. They're going to see some theater. They can hear music. It's quite a diverse series of programs that they have for people, even in the Learning Center. But I think that the idea of producing plays is gaining speed, we'll say.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful space to do it. I mean, that space is just begging for people to come in and, do some more work and some more kinds of work. I mean, I'm obviously one of its fans. Anytime I can get someone from LSFTA onto the podcast, I love to do that, to be able to get the word out that the place exists and is functioning. And I hope that, people will take that idea and say, oh, they've got some good stuff there, right? I'm particularly gratified to see that you're picking a show like Agnes of God, because this is not theater for just entertainment's sake. This is theater for thought. This is provocative theater, and
yes, it is.
That kind of thing should also be something that people should come and look at, I think.
Yeah, I wanted to make it a musical.
Everybody wants to make everything a musical, Timmy.
Right? Because musicals sell. They sell tickets.
They do.
But no. If you think about it, remember when we were in the penny suite, Agnes of God, the play was on the bookshelf in their library.
That's right.
And that's right. When you and I started talking about it, and I said, well, and I really felt like it was a sign that particular play was there. And And so that just sparked my interest in wanting to approach it again, because I'm much more experienced as an actor and certainly have a lot more directorial credits under my belt. And it's the space, as you said, is just begging for a production like this because it's so minimal for one thing. But it's not a play, again, it's not a play about a set or lights or sound. It's a play about this very sad story.
Yeah, it's very sparse, and it's and the way that I tend to think about the play for a lot of people, it's almost in many ways a very, very interesting psychological murder mystery.
That is right. That's absolutely right. It's a whodunit. In fact, murder mystery is, I think Mother Superior says this to the doctor. It's not quoting verbatim, but she says, you're trying to turn this into a murder mystery. But definitely people are going to walk away scratching their heads. And I believe that there'll be a lot of discussion around the dinner table after this one.
Well, listen, I'm going to leave it there. Timmy, I hope to see you soon when I get back, and
okay.
Enjoy yourselves. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to be there. I'll be there. I'll be home in time to see the show. So good luck to you. We'll see you then.
Okay, Tommy, you take care.
All right, bye. Agnes of God by John Pielmeyer will be presented at the Lakeshore Center for the Arts over 2 weekends, Friday through Sunday, May 2nd through 4th, and again, Friday through Sunday, May 9th through 11th. Performances are at 7:30 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays and 2 p.m. on Sundays. Tickets are $20 general admission and can be purchased online at lakeshorecenterforthearts.org, or you can click the link below in the description to be taken to the website. Agnes of God is recommended for adult audiences only. Here is the arts calendar from April 16th to April 30th. The Fredonia Young Artist Recital Series will have its second concert of the spring on Thursday, April 24th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. in the 1891 Fredonia Opera House. The Young Artist Recital Series features performances by promising students from the School of Music under the direction of Dr. Eleron Avni. Admission is free. Donations are gratefully accepted. The School of Music has the following events coming up. The Fredonia Jazz Flextet will perform on Thursday, April 17th in the Roush Recital Hall beginning at 8 p.m. Visiting artist John Wasserman will perform a concert entitled Amores Rojos, music on the vihuela and baroque guitar, on Tuesday, April 22nd from 6 to 7 p.m. in Roush Recital Hall. The Fredonia University Chorus and Camerata will perform on Wednesday, April 23rd at 8 p.m. in King Concert Hall. The Fredonia Jazz Orchestra performs on Thursday, April 24th at 8 p.m. in Roush Recital Hall. The Fredonia String Chamber Ensembles perform on Friday, April 25th at 8 p.m. in Roush Recital Hall. The Fredonia Wind Ensemble performs on Saturday, April 26th at 8 p.m. in King Concert Hall. The Fredonia Guitar Ensembles and Quartets perform on Monday, April 28th at 8 p.m. in Roush Recital Hall. And the Fredonia Chamber Choir and College Choir perform on Tuesday, April 29th in Roush Recital Hall. And finally, the Songwriters Circle at the Lakeshore Center for the Arts will present 4 more acoustic singer-songwriters on Thursday, April 17th, beginning at 7:30 p.m. The evening features songwriters Dee Adams, Chris Squire, Tom Robert, and Paul Lamont. Tickets are $10 and can be purchased online at lakeshorecenterforthearts.com. And remember, if you or your organization has an arts event you'd like mentioned on the arts calendar, please contact us at the Opera House at 716-679-1891 or email us at operahouse@fredopera.org. Please give us at least a month's notice of your event to ensure a timely listing. Perhaps the most important work being done in American theater today is being done by artists who are creating new and original work. Professor Dan Lendzian has taken up this endeavor in a big way and has dedicated one of the Walter Glure Mainstage series slots to a two-day presentation of 14 original one-act plays written by students in his fall playwriting class. I spoke with Dan to find out about how all this came about and how the students are reacting to working with original material. I'm joined now by Mr. Dan Lendzian. Dan is an assistant professor of theater at the Department of Theater and Dance at SUNY Fredonia, but my God, is he much more than that. He's done a lot of work in Buffalo. Black Bear Island was his latest endeavor. He directed that for the Alleyway Theater. Before that, he directed Con, the musical, for O'Connell and Company. He is a podcaster like me. He does the podcast called Western New York Soundstage for Buffalo Rising, which is a magazine about Buffalo culture and lifestyle. Pretty soon we're going to have to start calling him Mr. Buffalo. Dan, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
Well, listen, we're here to talk about the One Act Festival coming up at the Department of Theater and Dance pretty soon. And I know I'm doing this interview a little early maybe, but you're in rehearsal now. And I have no idea what the hell you're doing with it. So, to a certain extent, it's just a matter of letting me open the mic and let you talk. So what's going on? You have a number of one acts and it's a whole collection of plays.
Yeah, this has actually been an incredible new development under sort of the Fredonia Department of Theater and Dance. When I was a lecturer here, a student came to me directly after the pandemic and said, I want to write a play, and I think you're the person to teach me how to do it. So can I do an independent study with you? And I said, yeah, sure. And I have done a lot of writing in my life. I have concurrent degrees from Fredonia. I have a BFA in acting and a BA in English. And so writing and theater have always kind of really run concurrently throughout my entire life. So that student started writing a play, and then other students came forward and said, well, I want to learn how to write. And it turned out that I ended up having on Fridays sort of like an unofficial class of a writers group that was meeting every single Friday for about 2 years, to the point of where it just became kind of, incredible, but also untenable for me to kind of continue. Our chair, Dr. Rob Deemer, said, I think you need to start a playwriting class. I think that that's really important. So with his support and the support of the faculty, a playwriting class was put forth, which was taught for the first time by me in the fall. What's amazing about it is that that class resulted in 14 original one-act plays that were student-written that are going to be presented inside of this one-act play festival. I also thought it important because my experience at Fredonia, learning to direct and starting that process, that student directors be involved. So students have written these plays and are directing these plays, and it's all sort of student cast as well. So that's really, really exciting. This comes off of the success of, and it was on the podcast last year, Mason Wright Is Not a Mother. Ashley Giacchio wrote a full-length play that was produced at Fredonia that also had a reading at Alleyway Theater in Buffalo, which was really special for the students. And so kind of after that, we realized that it would be great to kind of give students a little bit of experience to direct something, to write something, and to act in something that is really sort of different. I am sort of supervising the festival so that I'm in rehearsals and I'm offering director's notes, and I've also read the one acts many times and have offered notes and things like that on the one acts. So it's a really, really exciting night of world premiere theater that people can come and check out, that it's completely student made.
Wow. Yeah, I know. I used to do the same thing. I used to have kids come and write plays and stuff like that, but I never really created anything like this. And I don't think I had the, I forget what the phrase is, but the amount of people necessary to be able to structure a program like that, because I always believe that original work is something students really need to learn how to do, both on the acting, directing side, as well as on the playwriting side. So I would bring in some new playwrights, people who I knew were professional playwrights, to do original work, but nothing at this scale. This is amazing.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it's really exciting, and like it just sort of I think it caught at the right time where students are really hungry to kind of create original things and work on original things. And I'm sure too some of that has to do with kind of the Chris Hanley's work here, and also sort of seeing Alleyway Theater do consistent world premiere plays. So it's a really exciting time, I think, to be a student at Fredonia.
Can you give us a sense? I know it would probably impossible to go through the whole number of plays that you actually have going on, but maybe you can distill the festival down to us a little bit and talk a little bit about maybe some of the themes you see running through the play. What's on the minds of these young playwrights? What are they writing about? What do they see as important to bring to the stage? Those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, I thought about initially presenting, and this may happen. I think that we're sort of trying to set it up that this One Act Play Festival might be a yearly occurrence. But I thought about maybe giving some sort of like theme or requirement, or saying you can only have two chairs or something like that to sort of get the writing going. But what I found when teaching the class was that the plays were also wildly different and wildly imaginative, that I really kind of took the reins off and let the students kind of create what they wanted to create. So there is a play where it's called, I think, The Ultimate Driving Test, which is about a sort of a driver's license test gone completely wrong. That's very, very funny and really ridiculous and sort of hyper theatrical in a way. There's a play about sort of someone there's a couple plays about dystopian futures where citizens are leaving places. There are some plays that are kind of dealing with heavy subject matter about like abuse or potentially like murder. There are some really silly, funny plays. There's a play that's sort of inspired by the Pandora's Box myth. There's a play kind of about a doppelganger and what that would be like to kind of see a version of yourself reflected in a mirror. So I would say that they're really highly imaginative. I would say that they're all very theatrical. And one of the things that I really push the students to think of, because I think that we're so kind of fragmented and so used to watching film now, is that when they first came in, they really wanted to sort of write almost like jump cuts, where it would be like a tableau of something would happen or an event would happen, and then jump cut, and we're 5 years in the future. And I said, I think you can already do that. What's really interesting to me is if this in some ways were 10 minutes of actual dialogue where we couldn't jump cut or leave locations or split away, and what can happen, what kind of change can happen inside of that actual 10 minutes. And so that's something that I think is really interesting, that audiences will see and experience. But it's a ton of different flavors. We've set up both nights because there's sort of a night of 7 plays and another night of 7 plays, that it really runs the gamut of funny and touching and maybe a little scary. So whenever you come, you're going to get a completely varied sort of emotional experience.
So if someone wanted to see all of the plays, it would be a two night event for them. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
it would be a 2 night thing, and I sort of hope that I think that the sort of ticket price is fairly accessible. So if people do want to do that, they can, because I think that it's just really interesting to see the breadth of work that the students have created, and I hope they're really excited by it.
When you talk about growing this particular festival, do you foresee it moving away from the walls of the Rockefeller Arts Center and trying to get other outside locations?
I don't know. I mean, like it's so early, and like that could be really exciting. I also think what I would love to see, I know that one of the students who wrote a play at Fredonia last or 2 years ago, a one act was kind of presented inside of a one act play festival in New York City, and I think that that's super exciting. So maybe, or growing the festival so that like we know that it's kind of happening every year, or perhaps one year, if like let's say year 5, we said, okay, we've done the Bartlett thing a number of times. Maybe we're doing site specific plays that you can walk through or something like that. Like I think the possibilities are endless. And that we're always going to be kind of thinking about the practicalities, but the sky truly is the limit, I think.
What about the acting company? How are they responding to having to deal with new plays? Do you do anything like rewrites with them or things like that where they have to adapt to new situations?
That's a great question, Tom. All of the plays were frozen last semester. There might be a line change here or there, but for the most part, the plays were set inside of the play writing class. We did a series of 3 readings, and it's really interesting to see how much the play shifted from the kind of the first draft to the third draft, and like an incredibly exciting process to kind of see and experience that. I've sort of held them in to say, and I think this is true even of every play at a certain point, is that I think it's important to freeze it or not do any more rewrites or revisions just to see what you have, right? And then afterwards do another series of revisions or rewrites. And so there have been some shifts. I know that one play thought that a character would be doubled, but then asked, can we add somebody else into it? And the answer was yes, and that worked out, I think, really successfully. But the actors have been really game and really interested and excited by bringing new plays to life. And the great thing about it too is that they're 10 minutes long, so it's like it's just a little flavor. It's not like a 40-minute play where, you know, whatever, like Tom Stoppard is rewriting a new 50 pages for you to memorize the next night. So, but it is good to kind of teach them that inside of new play development or film development, things can shift and change, and you do need to be on your toes.
So what is all this sort of, how does this coalesce for you as a teacher, a performer yourself? What are you learning from all of this as you go through the process in terms of just collecting these students into this particular collaborative environment and giving them the opportunity? What has that meant to you?
Yeah, I think, well, it's meant really a lot to me because, like I said, since I graduated from Fredonia with 2 degrees, I've always kind of concurrently been writing a lot of different things and acting and performing in a lot of different things. I think when you write your own material, what I have learned is I have such a deeper respect for the written word and for plot and for sort of the structure of things and even understanding the functional aspect of character, right? Like when you're first an actor, you're like, oh, I'm playing security guard 3 in this scene, and and it's all about security guard 3. Where when you write the play, and sometimes you realize, like, unfortunately, a character device, the device is just a device. You can bring something to it, but like character 3 or a security guard 3 is just security guard 3, and it's important to bring yourself to that. But what I have, I think, been super inspired by is just human beings' desire for sharing stories, sharing their own stories, and the uniqueness of story. And I think while I have spent a lot of time as an actor in my life, I've also spent a lot of time devising theater, making theater, and telling, stories within the theater. The work that people for me have always resonated with the most is the work that I have sort of created myself and put forward rather than sort of me stepping into a work that has already been pre-established and that I haven't had a hand within the creative process. And I also think so that has kept me really inspired as an actor, as a performer, as a teacher, and as an artist, is the ability to tell our own unique, fun, hilarious, crazy, sad, wonderful stories while not having to worry about, am I going to be cast as this? Or will someone give me the opportunity to do that? I have been extremely lucky in my life, but Chris Hanley sometimes used to joke that, like, in my acting career in New York, some people were able to, like, walk through the door. I would have to, like, punch through a window, crawl through the doggy door to get in, to get seen. I would always be playing weird parts. Whenever I see the musical Gypsy, I always think, oh, I was the back end of the cow in Gypsy, right? Like, and my life has shifted and changed, but I brought that experience forward. But having the ability to create my own work, to create character, to create story, has opened up my life as a creative person, and also, varying revenue streams beyond waiting to be cast. And I want to give that to young people and the students at Fredonia moving forward.
I think that's pretty important. One of these days, maybe what I'll do is I'll get you on a podcast to talk about nothing else but that particular idea, because I think that particular idea is so central to what I think the American theater needs more of and what I think educational theater needs more of. But I don't think this is the time and place here, right here to
Sure.
talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. We can talk about it.
But maybe sometime we can talk about it. I always like to give people the opportunity to say what's up for them. What are they going to be doing? What do you got? What do you got on the burner in the future? What's going on?
Yeah, great. So the One Act Play Festival is my focus right now, and that is super exciting. This summer, I'll be back in Buffalo, appearing on the stage of Shakespeare in Delaware Park in Twelfth Night. I'll be playing Malvolio, which is a dream role and really exciting and a lot of fun to step into. I'm currently I'll be in Europe a little bit this summer, studying some things for some certifications that I'll be bringing back to Fredonia, which is really exciting. In the fall, I am directing the Hillman Opera at Fredonia. And then in the spring, I'll be directing a crazy musical called Ruthless, which is a total sort of different kind of thing. I'm in a new play. I think it's like sort of a regional premiere, but it's called Pure Glitter with Second Gen Theater Company in May. And then the One Act Place Festival will be back next year.
Dan, thanks as always for your time. It's very much appreciated. I always love talking to you, and good luck with the One Act Festival. I'm sure it's going to be a terrific experience for you and the students involved and anybody who comes to see it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for chatting, Tom. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. The One Act Play Festival will be presented in the Bartlett Theater on April 25th and 26th at 7:30 p.m. and also April 26th and 27th at 2 p.m. Tickets can be purchased at the campus box office Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 716-673-3501 or by going online at www.fredonia.edu/tickets. It's time once again to announce the winner of last episode's giveaway. The pair of Cinema Series movie tickets, as well as the $25 gift card for Downtown Brew in Fredonia, goes to Mr. Jeff McMinn. He correctly answered Gary Essendine as the Noel Coward character in Present Laughter. This week's giveaway features a $25 gift card for DeJohn's Spaghetti House in Fredonia, as well as 2 tickets for the Cinema Series, which you can use for any upcoming movie you'd like. Just answer the following question correctly, and the prizes are yours. What are the names of the 4 March sisters in Little Women? Send an email with the correct answer, and with the subject title Giveaway, plus your preferred contact information to operahouse@fredopera.org, and you'll be eligible to win. The deadline for all entries is noon on Friday, April 25th, to be eligible to win. And don't forget our important fundraiser, the 1891 Run for the Opera House. This year's 5K Run Walk event will take place on Sunday, April 27th, beginning at 9 a.m., which is coming up fast. Registration is $25 prior to the race, $30 day of the race, $15 for students under 21. Please check out the link at the bottom of the show notes for this podcast for more information and to register for the run. If you can't participate in the walk run, then think about becoming an Opera House member, which requires no more effort than a few mouse clicks on the web page. Membership has its benefits, so join today. And that's it for this homeward bound edition of Notes from the Aisle Seat. My thanks to Anna Gagliano, Tim Newell, and Dan Lendzian for being my guests on this episode. Notes from the Aisle Seat is a production of the 1891 Fredonia Opera House in Fredonia, New York. For more information on any of the Opera House's events, call the box office at 716-679-1891, visit the website at www.fredopera.org, or email at operahouse@fredopera.org. Notes from the Aisle Seat is available wherever you get your podcasts and also on the Opera House YouTube channel. If you like this podcast, please consider following us by clicking the follow button on our home website at aisleseat.podbean.com and spreading the word through your social media feeds. If you have an arts event you'd like featured on the podcast, why don't you drop us a line at operahouse@fredopera.org and we'll see about featuring your event. Please try to give us a month's notice in advance if possible to facilitate timely scheduling. If you have any suggestions, comments, or criticisms of the podcast, just drop us a line at operahouse@fredopera.org. We'll be glad to receive your feedback. Our next episode will be available on Wednesday, April 30th, 2025. I'm Tom Laughlin, and until then, be safe out there and be kind to one another.